My name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. I have been solving math problems out of this book here, the GMAT review, the official guide. If you do not own this book, buy one immediately. You will find it at mba.com. The problem that I'm about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 175, problem solving number 170. Let's take a look at it. Make sure that you have the book in front of you. It says, in a certain company, the ratio of managers to workers is 5 to 7. So I'm going to make a note here. The ratio of managers to workers is 5 to 72. Then we are told that 8 additional workers are hired. All right? 8 additional workers are hired. And we are told that as a result, the ratio of number of managers to number of production line workers goes up to 5 to 74. As a result, the ratio goes up to 5 to 74. Now listen to me what I have to say here before I solve this problem in a classical way, in the proper way. There are two ways of solving this problem. One is what I call the traditional way, the orthodox way, the classical way, the geeky way, the nerdy way, the proper way, the academic way, the algebraic way, the way that will make your math teacher proud when he or she looks at your work. Unfortunately, your math teacher is not going to look at your work. Besides, you're graduating to school a long time ago, many moons since you graduated from school, your grad school, you don't care about that. What you care about is to learn how to think logically, systematically, calmly in the exam so that you can get these problems right without having to do all the classical work. I'm going to show you how to solve this problem in a second here, how to solve it in the classical way with the algebra, but listen to what I have to say here. Think logically. Look, the unit that we have is this. 5 to 72 is the unit. I'm calling this a unit, the unit being, think of this as an assembly line. I have an assembly line where there are 72 workers working on the assembly line. There's a round assembly, the conveyor belt going there, they are doing something, there are some workers on this side, some workers on this side, and there are 5 supervisors supervising that assembly line. That ratio is fixed, 5 to 72. That piece alone tells me that whatever the total number of people, whatever the total number of managers are in that company has to be some multiple of 5. The total number of managers in this firm cannot be 13 or 18 or 29, has to be some multiple of 5. What is the question asking? How many managers does the company have? Alright, they're asking how many. Oh, notice there, if you look at the answer choices, you will see that what I just told you, it confirms my intuition. All the answer choices are multiple of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. It makes sense here because that is our unit. They have divided up the group of workers by 5 managers. 5 managers supervise 72 workers. When they hire 8 more, the ratio goes up to 74. Each of the group rather, not each of the manager, each of this group has 2 more workers. Think of this as a cohort, as a unit. As I said, assembly line. Think of this as an assembly line. What we don't know is how many assembly lines do we have here? Does this company have one assembly line, or are there 2 such groups in the company? In which case we'll have 10 managers, or are there 3 such groups, or are there 4 such groups, or are there more groups? I don't know how many groups there are. That's the part here. I do not know how many assembly line there are. But then they go on to say that just by hiring 8 more workers, that ratio goes to 74. Aha! That's an increase of 2. How can I divide 8 workers? So that each of them go up by 2? Each of this cohort goes up by 2. There must have been 4 assembly lines. Before they were working like this. Assembly line number 1, assembly line number 2, assembly line number 3, and assembly line number 4. Now, instead of 72, I have 74 workers here, each of them. There you go, you see? That tells me there must be 20 managers, that's all. There are 4 cohorts, there are 4 assembly lines. There used to be 72 workers on each of the assembly line. By hiring 8 more workers, each assembly line gets to have 2 more workers. 8 workers, that's all. We have 20 managers. Having said all that, if you are unable to see all of this thing on your own, if you have not developed that intuition yet, which is what I do in my prep course, when I do private tutoring, face-to-face private tutoring, through practice. This comes through practice. This is not something that you can learn. This is not something that I can program somebody. It's not something that you can just memorize or something. It's a skill. You develop it gradually after doing practice, problems after problems after problems. There are altogether 400 problems in this book, 250 problem solving questions, 150 data sufficiency questions, and I make sure that my students do all of those 400 questions if you want to get a decent score. And by the time they finish, they begin to get a grasp of this technique, logical thinking. Let me take a look at the camera. I've been talking too much. I am 6.5 minutes into it. Let me wrap it up. Let me do the classical work here on the side here and wrap this thing up for those of you who want to see how to solve this in a classical way. So our original ratio was managers to workers was 5 to 72. And then it became, we hire 8 more workers. As a result of hiring 8 more workers, this ratio became 5 to 74. So let's cross multiply. 74 times m, 74m equals 5 times w plus 8. W plus 8. And then open this thing up here. 5w plus 40. When I open the parentheses, 5w plus 40. Now 5w, I know if I cross multiply here, 5 from first equation here, this tells me that 5w equals 72m. So I'm going to substitute here. 74m equals 72m plus 40. Subtract 72m from both sides, and you will see that 2m equals 40, and therefore m equals 20. And that's all there is. That's all there is. 5w equals 72m right from here. This equation implies that if I were to cross multiply, 5w equals 72m. Just 1 second. That's all. That's all there is. That's all she wrote. That was the classical work. This was the intuitive way. But the problem with the intuitive way is that you either see it or you don't. If you don't see it, then you have no choice but to do the classical way and figure out the answer. Anyway, those were the 2 ways of doing this thing. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope that you found my explanation convincing and cogent. For those of you who do not know the word, look up this word and learn it. Cogent, which means to be persuasive. What is the noun of cogent? The noun would be, I'm digressing big time, cogency. When one speaks, one has to have cogency in order to be able to persuade the listener. Something that not everybody has. But anyway, I hope you found this helpful. If you wish to hire me for personal private tutoring, face-to-face tutoring, or if you wish to buy my videos in which I show you the solutions to all the math problems, in either case, go to my website at www.prep4GMAT.com and send me an email. Alright? Thank you.